The rates of cesarean sections on pregnant mothers in the United States is extraordinarily high compared to anywhere else in the world, and is something really awful going on as to why this is the case. Now, I will be very honest and blunt with you. As a doctor, I live in the United States myself. I practice in the United States, but I wouldn't trust US medical authorities as far as I could throw them. I'm talking about physician societies, medical societies, all of the recommendations that they come up with. I think there are some very, very odd, shady recommendations. The one thing that the United States does do really well, I believe, is acute emergency care. Truly better than anywhere else in the world, but most other things completely suck and are very questionable, completely out of line with things that go on in other countries. So let me dive into this particular question then. Why are cesarean section rates in the United States so ridiculously high compared to anywhere else in the world? And I want to share with you a recent publication. Surprise, surprise, this was actually in the New York Times. It is one of the few good pieces that I've seen in the New York Times where they're actually doing the right thing and asking questions. Usually, most of their articles are completely terrible. But I'm going to share it with you here, and then I'm going to touch on a few points because this gets to so much which is wrong with US medicine. Take a look at this. So this is a summary which was actually published somewhere else, and the headline is Investigating the High Rates of C-Sections. New York Times investigative reporter explains how electronic fetal monitoring is driving up C-section rates. So this is monitoring of the fetus, which is routine. Let's dive in. What are they talking about? 1 in 3 babies are delivered by cesarean section in the US, the most common major surgery in this country. A new investigation by the New York Times finds that a widely used fetal monitoring tool may be driving those high C-section rates, even though studies show the device is unreliable. Well, what could be worse than that? Using an unreliable device at a time when a baby is born. What on earth is going on? Electronic fetal monitoring, EFM, tracks a baby's heartbeat during labor and delivery to detect signs of distress. But decades of studies show it doesn't improve outcomes for babies or mothers. In fact, it may lead to more unnecessary C-sections, which carry their own risks for the mother, including risk of infection, longer recovery, and potential difficulties in future pregnancies. I'll include a link down below. They've got a video in this piece, but here is what it's all about. The journalist explains that hospitals continue to use this monitoring because of fears of lawsuits and for business and efficiency reasons. Did you hear that last bit? Business and efficiency reasons. Business and efficiency reasons. Most of us who live in the United States know the truth about the business side of medicine, how healthcare insurance works, how other incentives work. But this is a particularly tragic situation because C-sections are not a benign surgery. Of course, they involve a longer recovery, and I'm not saying that cesarean sections are never needed. Of course, they often are, but to have a rate which is so much higher than other countries is really concerning. For a supposedly advanced Western country, let's think about this. 1 in 3 babies by C-section. The World Health Organization, not that the WHO is any organization to really put up on a pedestal, but they recommend that the C-section rate should only be about 10 to 15%. Latest data from another advanced Western country, France, shows that the C-section rate is closer to 20%. So the US here is clearly an outlier compared to many other countries. So what could be going on? Well, I've included a link down below to the New York Times article, which goes into a lot of detail, and feel free to read it. But the broader point here is this. If we take what they're questioning that fetal monitoring using this type of device excessively will tend to produce, especially if it's not accurate, additional concerns about the baby, which lead to more C-sections being done. And this is the whole issue that I have with US medicine. And we could apply this to many different areas of how healthcare works, how interventions work, things that are promoted, it's all really gung-ho. I hate to use the example of a cowboy here because we're talking about the United States, but obviously that analogy is appropriate for various reasons. Going all in like a pure cowboy, maybe that's an insult to cowboys, or a bull in a china shop. I like that phrase, actually, a bull in a china shop. Not thinking about what you're doing here. And if indeed it is true that C-section rates are astronomically high because of excessive and inaccurate fetal monitoring, that is an absolutely huge deal. What on earth is the world of obstetrics doing here? Now, I accept the medico-legal side of things. I know that in the United States, there's much more of a litigious culture. It's private medicine as opposed to public medicine. Health insurance is involved. But still, we are talking about the health of pregnant mothers here. We're talking about the childbirth process. What could be more of a major issue to focus on and get right than that for the future of a country? So I hope that the world of medicine continues to look into this. What is going on? And let me finish with what I started with when it comes to my own distrust of US medical societies, physician associations, and everything that they recommend, guidelines. I do think that anybody trusting these organizations and the way that they encourage the practice of medicine, various interventions, anybody who is too trusting, well, I feel very sorry for them. What do I do personally? Well, whether we're talking about an issue like this, or we're talking about other aspects of healthcare, like how many shots a young baby or child receives, I simply block out my ears when it comes to any recommendation from US authorities, because firstly, children in the United States are among the most unhealthiest in the Western world. So why would you want to listen to doctors who have produced that type of outcome? It would be like a completely failed education system and then holding the educators up as people to listen to. Of course not. You wouldn't do that. Look at the countries that are doing things well. Let's look at what countries like Japan are doing. Those are the countries that I go to when I think, well, what is the best thing to do? How do they go about the process of childbirth? What are their C-section rates? And I take everything from there. But for my own health, I absolutely don't trust a word that comes out of the mouth of US physician societies. And I'm a doctor in America, and I will look any of them in the eye and tell them that their recommendations are not to be trusted because the simple reason they produce terrible results. So you would have to be absolutely mad to think that the advice that's coming down from them, which is producing such bad results and making the US such an outlier, is anything that you should be following or listening to. I follow the countries and doctor societies which are actually doing things right, which are producing a healthier population. This is extremely concerning to me. I hope to hear more about the astronomically high C-section rates in the United States, what is going on, and whether something universal is going wrong with fetal monitoring and having certain thresholds for initiating a C-section. Thanks everybody for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of this? Share any stories down below. I enjoy hearing from all of you. Also check in the links down below for my website, all the other work I do, my natural insulin resistance reversal and fat loss program, and our natural health and well-being store, ohighwellness.com if you're in the USA, North America, ohighwellness.co if you're in the UK, Europe. Take care, everyone. Hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe button for more similar videos in the future, and we will speak again very soon.